curious, do any of you know the music videos of the American band OK Go? Yes, I had a hunch that I wouldn't be the only person in this room who knows their videos, and I'm probably not the only educator who had been using their videos for years in my classrooms. Because whether the band is using thousands of pieces of laser-cut toast to show frame rates and make an animation, or an elaborate 4-minute-long chain reaction machine, or perhaps flying through microgravity, or even using optical illusions and neuroscience to dazzle us, their music videos, which have been seen by tens of millions of people, are only possible through feats of science and engineering. So a few years ago, when I bumped into their lead singer, Damian Kulash, in line for coffee at a conference and fangirled a little bit, I wasn't surprised to hear that he had heard from teachers from around the world about how they've used in their classrooms for preschoolers all the way to graduate students. I was surprised to hear that they'd be open to collaborating with my undergraduate research lab, the Playful Learning Lab, to create resources specifically for the classroom. And suddenly, OK Go Sandbox was born. OK Go Sandbox is a variety of education resources that are all free. A website with now more than 20 OK Go Sandbox produced for the classroom videos, and lesson guides that are mapped to education standards, to live events that are free for classrooms to talk about the science with the band, or even asking children around the world what art experiment they'd like to do that could only happen in space. And after we heard from kids in 28 countries, we actually built 2 of them, one that involved a lot of glitter and one that was a custom electric guitar, and launched them to space with our friends at Blue Origin. I should point that whenever we create these projects, though, we always have teachers on set. We fly teachers from elementary school classrooms or high school classrooms to the set so that they can make sure that we're having the band explain science and challenge kids to do projects in ways that are useful for educators. We've been shocked by how this took off. While the band has had nearly 500 million views of their music videos, through Sandbox, we've gotten things like The One Moment of Math, which, as an engineering professor, I'm quite excited to say, is a video about frame rates and unit conversions. It's been watched nearly 500,000 times. We have now seen people from over 170 countries using these resources. And what we didn't realize was we were creating something that was almost geared for the pandemic. When the pandemic hit and teachers had to switch to online learning, we saw our usage rates skyrocket, especially on Mondays through Fridays, and started seeing pictures of kids and teachers using these videos at home and to do projects. Now, I should point out that the team that is leading this is actually made up of the next generation of science engagers, because the Playful Learning Lab at the University of St. Thomas consists of about 30 undergraduate students from 18 to 22, from 15 different majors, from science to education to communications to finance. And they're the ones, these amazing young adults, are the ones writing the curriculum and testing them with teachers and helping the band and the directors put the videos together. So not only does OK Go Sandbox reach the tens of thousands of people seeing the videos, we also are building this core of students who will go on to be science teachers and engineers who have gotten firsthand experience at a young age on working on something like this, of this scale. So when the pandemic hit and people were using these, we were quite excited. But we also decided that it was an opportunity. We were doing Zoom calls with educators, but wouldn't it be awesome if during a pandemic we could use the wonders of art and technology and science to create something together at kind of fairly scary, dark time? And so we had the idea in January of last year to invite the world to participate with us in creating the first OK Go Sandbox music video. And I was really hopeful we'd get 1,000 people to volunteer, and if not, I told my kids they were going to have to help their mom. We got over 15,000 people asking to participate from all around the world, including over 200 schools, and so we couldn't make a music video. We could only make 6 music videos with music pieces and coloring from kids, teachers, others, over 250 schools from Russia to Australia to the US. The packages would come in, and using the skills of our computer science students and our education students, they put together these amazing music videos that actually were themed on nature and space and other topics, and showing that the power of art and science can bring us together even during a global pandemic where we can't be together. And so now, knowing that we have this cohort of thousands of people using these whimsical artistic science and engineering and art lessons, I'm excited to see what the coming years bring as we invite more and more teachers and students and curious science parents and children around the world to play with us in our sandbox. Thank you.
Brilliant. That is a really interesting STEM education project. So it is time now to get your questions. So please, if you have any question, please raise the question mark sign that you have. Do we have any questions here? Do you want to ask any questions? So let's move to our next engager then. Do we have any online questions? Sorry, I haven't checked. Oh, we have a question here, so yeah.
Thank you very much for a great project. I think you're very well in time during COVID. Yeah, I mean, of course, you have to have some link maybe to music. So how could you engage also people which maybe not usually are connected to music, but coming from the STEM side? Yeah.
So the videos themselves involve things like vomit comets, planes flying, parabolas. Most of our lessons aren't about music, but actually use the visuals. Though we have done quite a few. We prefer not to invite people to create music, though, because that's intimidating. We have very popular units about sound, and how can you find sound in the world around you, which is a really fascinating thing, because actually some of these have been translated into American Sign Language. So forget about music. Can we feel the sounds? Can we bang on things? The band has given us this wonderful array of many science topics that they kindly allow my team to pull from.
Great. So we have another question here, please. Yep.
Thank you. One question. Could you explain what are the role of scientists in your project? Because what's the two-way kind of exchange?
Absolutely. So conveniently, one of the band members is an electrical engineer. I'm an engineering professor, and we have a panel of other professors and experts who help us with the different content. So we had physicists helping us with the science content before we can film it, and then teachers making sure we're using the right terminology. In December 2019, before the pandemic, we filmed a whole bunch of neuroscience and optical illusions, and we had a neuroscientist who wrote the scripts for the band and reviewed with them the science. So everything we do is vetted both by science specialists in that field, as well as teachers at the PK, pre-kindergarten, all the way to college level, to make sure that we're using terminology that works at those levels.
Brilliant. So we have another question from our audience online, from our jury, actually. Online, yes?
Exactly. One digital jury asked, it looks a great and engaging project. Could you speak to the learning outcomes that have been achieved with this approach?
Yes. So we are here for teachers, and so every teacher uses it differently. So we can be anecdotally, we can actually talk to how many teachers using it in which sort of classrooms, and we've done some research studies on that. We have two main goals. One is that students see that art and science and engineering aren't different, right? That a science classroom can talk about art and talk about music. We also look at engagement. Are the kids asking questions? It is a two-way thing where we actually answer, my team answers every email we get from a teacher or a child. So we are trying to get kids and adults to engage and be curious about how did that happen and what science allowed that. I'd be happy to share some of the research papers that we've done with our education partners on these.
Great. I think we only have 30 seconds left. No, any questions? Okay, great. So I think this is a brilliant start of the day. Thank you very much. Massive round of applause here, guys.
Thank you.
And